Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Todd Talks Tune Show. I'm your host, Dr. Todd Samra, and I just played the beginning of one of the most famous piano pieces of all time, Clair de Lune by Claude Debussy. Debussy lived from 1862 to 1918, so we celebrated the 100-year anniversary of his death just a couple of years ago. But obviously a great composer, and one we label as an impressionist composer from the impressionist time period, which we really kind of borrow from the art world, from the painting world. And there's a lot of relationships between his music and between, let's just take for example Monet, Claude Monet. And if we think of the look of a Monet painting, some of the same things going on there visually are happening here musically. Like for example, diffused color, color that is maybe not bright and bold. That would be a more German characteristic. We could describe German music, for example, as being boldly colored, lots of colors, all the colors, but bolder, fuller. I don't know how else to really kind of describe that besides fuller. So when we look at the French music, they're reacting to the German style. Of course, Debussy is very influenced by Wagner, a very important German composer, but he's creating a new style that's uniquely French, which was not only something he was doing, but Fauré was doing before him, and Saint-Saens and Satie. They were all exploring new styles of French music, and of course they are more opaque, less bold, if you will. So the colors here, it's the same type of thing. This music is popular for the same reason that a Monet painting is popular in a lot of homes. Now some people, they don't want a Monet painting in their house. They're like, their number one rule, no Monet. And they want, Picasso or Cubism or something that's distinctly different, maybe, than what other people would put in their home. But there's a reason why so many people gravitate towards this type of artwork. It's calm. It's beautiful. That's an important factor, the aesthetic factor. It's just a wonderful kind of relaxing thing that maybe that's what you want in your home environment. And that's why a lot of times people, I think, gravitate towards this French literature. It's beautiful. It's diffuse. It's easy to listen to, if you will. If you want to hear something maybe on the other side of the spectrum, listen to some Scriabin, the piano music of Scriabin. And explore maybe Prokofiev that we had a show on not long ago. Look at some of his piano music and how very different it is in style to what's going on here with Debussy. So in giving a little bit of introduction about French music, about French Impressionism and French Debussy, I want to kind of get to my point today. And that is, I believe very often in this music, the tempo, the speed at which we take it is too fast. For example, to stay on Clair de Lune, he puts at the beginning of the piece, andante très espressif. Andante, an Italian word which means walking speed, or basically medium tempo. Not slow, but not fast. And très espressif is like with much expressiveness. And that's why I played it sort of the way that I did. Very expressive. That was one of the most important elements in what Debussy wanted us to interpret in his music. He wanted us, if anything, to play things expressively. That was the most important thing. So if you play a wrong note, that's not the end of the world, but playing without passion, playing without that expressive nature to him, that was what was so important. So we look at Arabesque number 1. And this piece was actually given away for free. He put it in a newspaper, and it was published, and people got to cut it out of the newspaper and play it from home. So it became kind of an instant success, if you will. And I think one of the sins that we make in the piano world is that we play everything too quickly. I was going to do this long demonstration, and I was going to play a Beethoven, part of a Beethoven sonata, and then I was going to play a recording by Daniel Barenboim, who plays it much, much faster, because he can. Barenboim's a great talent. And so we look at a lot of the other great concert pianists, they're able to play these things at a greater speed. So therefore they do. So what I kind of want to encourage people to do is to take a slow look at this. We're going to chill out a little bit and we're going to look at some of the musical counterpoint and relationships going on here, and how when we go at a faster tempo, they become a wash. They become just kind of lost, which I'm not criticizing it. I mean, because people can play it faster, that's great. But I think if we slow it down a little bit. So to illustrate what I mean, let me just start here at the very beginning. I should say andantino con moto is the tempo here. Andantino, which is maybe a little bit faster than walking speed, and con moto with motion. So he wants a little bit of motion here. Okay, I'm just going to go on. So I'm taking a little slower than that. And then I'm taking this retard very literally. Whoa, that was a lot of retard. And then an a tempo. Which I take very slowly because of the relationship between these patterns. I'll do it again. And then to continue that, this counterpoint, or the note against note. Whoops. I was going to stop anyway. So it's this counterpoint, this note against note that's going on here that really I think is part of the great beauty of this piece. I think he was very careful, like Bach, to create a very intimate sort of counterpoint beginning here in measure 6. And he separates those voices not only in the range, the high and the low, but in terms of their subdivision. The left hand is playing in 2, and the right hand is playing in 3, which creates a texture between them, but it also allows for a separation of the counterpoint. And if we go too fast, it all just gets kind of washed in this big wash. So let me start there again, and just listen to the relationship between the right hand notes and the left hand notes. It's a beautiful, beautiful relationship. And it's so important, Debussy does it again. He writes it out again. Just gorgeous, gorgeous relationships going on there. Now to further my point, I want to go to the next section, which he clearly puts in here, tempo rubato, which means make it flexible, like make it robust, make it very different, speed up and slow down at will, do not keep a steady tempo. So what he does, and this section is very much like jazz, which, you know, was making its way to Paris around this time. These chords, now it's very chordal, very different than the beginning. And then here, very romantic. Oops. These are jazz chords. So the same kind of thing, I think, because they're so rich and because they contain so much of that jazz energy, 7th chords and 9th chords and the like, that they need time to kind of ferment. Then in the next part he says mosso, which just means more. Give me more. Anyway, he wants more. Faster, faster, faster. So we go on and he moves on, and that part happens again. But then at the end, we have this very, very exquisite moment where he sets up. He begins with that same opening theme. Now for the 4th time. Then begins the coda. I didn't do that right, but so what? Here we go. Coda. This is new material. And once again, if we go too fast, it gets lost. Then it's like an oasis. Slow this part down because there's a lot of interesting things going on here. Such richness. Why speed through it? Sorry. Then I think we can really take these very slowly. And then what does he do? He gives us that 2 against 3 pattern again. But no indication to change the tempo, speed up or slow down. So we've slowed down, so here he really wants it slow. He does it one more time. Then we get this final last idea. And then he ends it. So I think if we rush through some of these things, I mean, a lot of the relationships get lost. And that's really what counterpoint means. Counterpoint means note against note. And we usually use like the music of Johann Sebastian Bach to illustrate counterpoint because he's so perfect with it. These note against note relationships. And then we see Mendelssohn and Brahms and Stravinsky even imitating what Bach was doing contrapuntally to work these note against note relationships. And I think not that there isn't anything wrong with listening to the great recordings that we have out there of this piece, but I think nearly all of them really are too fast. And some of what Debussy put in the music here gets lost. And I think per his instructions, the most important thing that we can do is play passionately. And being able to play something and kind of show off with it, I think that's more, there's other types of literature for that. I don't necessarily feel that Debussy is necessarily the place to show off necessarily how fast you can play, but how expressively, how warmly, how sensitively, how passionately you can play. Now I'm setting this up because Debussy is basically the Elton John of his generation. Wait, did he just say Elton John? Yes, I did. I said Elton John. And what kind of goes on a little bit in the music of Debussy happens a little bit in the music of Elton John. If you're like, where's he going with this? You have to tune in next week, because next week's episode is also going to be at the piano, but we're going to explore 4 songs, specifically 4 songs by Elton John and Bernie Taupin, and talk about why they're fantastic. And look at some of these relationships, things between the chords going on, and why those songs are so powerful and why we love them so much. Thank you for tuning in today. It's a rough time in the world, I know, and I really had second thoughts maybe about releasing this episode right now, but you know, we need a little bit of a distraction maybe, and I thought this might offer one. But very, very grateful to all the viewers. Please hit the subscribe button, and please tune in next week to hear the music of Elton John and Bernie Taupin. Thank you for joining in to Dr. Todd Talks Tunes.